Recording.
Let's see here. 1 second. Let me.
All right, I believe we're live now. Can you confirm that, Josh? Just confirm we're live, and then we'll get started here.
Yeah, I see it. We're good to go.
All right. Nice. Well, welcome, Facebookers. Thanks for joining us. This is the Real Estate Wealth Network strategy session number 5. We have been doing this for 5 weeks. And just think how much has changed in the last 5 weeks. I know one thing that hasn't changed in the last 5 weeks. I haven't had a haircut.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, Josh.
Man, I'm laying on tons of product just to keep it down and in control, but it's getting pretty bad.
Oh,
I have
gosh.
wings over the years, but I'm dealing with it. I usually, to be honest, if I'm not shooting one of these videos, I'm probably in a hat.
Yeah, me too. That's for sure. Anyway, welcome to the Real Estate Wealth Network Strategy Lab. My name is Cameron Dunlap. I am your host, and with me is my good friend and business partner, Mr. Josh Brown. Hey, Josh.
Hey, everybody.
Nice. And so we do this on a weekly basis, live on Facebook here Thursday at noon-ish, right? We start at noon.
Yep.
They're as close to that as we can. And then what we do is we take, we're recording this while we do this, and then we take the recording and post it at the blog, which is at CameronDirect.com. Just one of the tabs at the top says blog, and it's right there. And by the way, you'll want to go to the blog later if you're not there now watching the recording. If you're with us live, you're going to want to go to the blog a little later today because we're going to have a really cool download for you. I'll let Josh tell you about that.
Yep.
Also, I am later tonight. What time am I doing that, Josh? Tell me.
I think 8 p.m.
What I'm calling the 2020 pandemic recession briefing for real estate investors. I'm going to take a really deep dive into what's happening right now and break it all down and really put you in a position to understand where you are, where you're going, what you need to be doing, where you need to be doing it, and how you need to be doing it to be successful, to turn this lemon into lemonade. What time am I doing that, Josh? I forget.
8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
That's when it'll
yeah,
go.
And if I look a little worn out, I am. It's because I have been working around the clock getting this thing together. So I hope you'll take the time. Now, we don't have a link for that yet, Josh. It's going to go out in an email later today. Is that right? Uh-oh. You just froze up. It's a nice expression. I got to give you that. At least you're not making a funny face. Technology. Don't you love it? All right. Well, I'll keep going because I'm pretty sure he's going to come back any second now. And for all I know, you can hear me, Josh. I hope you can. So what I do, if you've been on one of these strategy labs before, is I'll touch on some of the things that I've been following and researching during the last, we totally lost him. Oh, I know what he did. He jumped off and he's going to come back on. So I'll keep going. So I touch on some things that, have taken place in the last week, things that I've observed, things I've read and studied about, so that, in large part, you don't have to. One, and this just came out literally in the last, 2 hours. Last week's unemployment claims or filings were at 4.4 million. So that takes the total now over the last 5 or 6 weeks up. There's Josh. He's back. That, we don't have your video yet, but I know you're coming. So anyway, 4.4 new unemployment filings last week, taking the total to 26 million since this mess has descended upon us. And that takes us to an unemployment rate of 16%. 16%. And that's out of our current workforce, which is 162 million workers in America. And by the way, you may be experiencing this one way or another as the recipient or the payor or the one who's troubled by it. I am. The latter of those two is there are now 40 states paying $600 per week on top of normal unemployment benefits. So, for example, I know of one of my hotel employees who's bringing in $852 a week. I think I mentioned this in a previous call, but I didn't realize it was happening in 40 states. $852 a week, which is great. But that is about $300 more than what this person would be receiving if they were working. Mm-hmm. Which I think, I'm glad you're back, Josh. I need to come back, so I just kept going.
You always count technology to dump out at the wrong time. It dropped me, but I got back on.
What are you going to do? So, that creates a moral hazard for sure. And I was talking to the guy who's building my house, right? So we're building a house, and get this, because of construction limits in New York, we can only have one worker on the job site at a time.
Yeah.
And it's being enforced by the town constable. But anyway, I was talking to the contractor, and he was telling me about a guy who sometimes, takes care of his house when he's traveling and stuff. And he doesn't work much. He's usually on unemployment, between little stints here and there, and prefers to be on unemployment. And he was walking around all puffed up, bragging about how much money he's bringing in now. And he can't remember when he made so much money, and ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
And the builder, Tom, he was ranting on our phone call. He was just like, oh, it made me so mad. I was just so mad. And I thought, well, I'd just be glad he doesn't work for you, Now, I'm not hearing that from my team members who are, temporarily laid off. But I do anticipate it being hard to get them to come back to work. What I learned yesterday in our little community, we did a Zoom meeting for the Chamber of Commerce, and I pushed that. I made that happen. I was kind of being a bug to the person who runs the chamber, saying we need to reconnect. We're forgetting we're humans and we have faces. And she's a technophobe, and so I got her to do that. But there was a guy on there who said, at least in the state of New York, if you offer your employee their job back and they don't take it, they will yank their unemployment benefits. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I have not researched that. I do not know that to be a fact, but the person who said it is a pretty knowledgeable guy, and he's got a lot of employees. So,
yeah. Well, I think that I pause to say that's good, because I don't ever want to say that's good that someone's getting money yanked away from them. But I think the idea that the government is now paying people, so much more than they would have made in their JOB has incentivized them to stay at home on their BUT. And that's never a good thing, especially long term. So
no, that's the moral hazard.
Fair, right? It seems fair that they would make. It seems surprising, but also fair the government would make it so that if we can get them back to work at what they are making, they shouldn't have to take it or lose their benefits. But I don't.
Yeah. Another thing, April 1 came around, and there was a whole lot of people that didn't pay their rent, didn't pay their mortgage because they've been told they shouldn't, or don't need to, or it's okay. Even if you, without having to, prove or even demonstrate any sort of hardship. And I think there's a lot of, some major retail players like Staples, Dick's Sporting Goods, major retailers are just basically not paying their rent. And then all the way down to maybe you, if you've got rental properties, you might have a tenant who hasn't paid their rent. Well, that came and went on April 1, and everybody was sort of, I've talked to a lot of investors, and everybody was kind of like, I got, most or all of my rent. And I'll be honest with you, I'm more worried about May 1st than I was about April 1st, because a whole month has transpired for people to sort of get on the rent's too damn high bandwagon, and we'll see how it goes. And by the way, that there's a question. Thank you to those of you that sent your questions into comments at Real Estate Wealth Network. That's how you can submit your questions, and we'll address them to the best of our ability with the time we have here. But there's a question about that whole rent thing that we're going to address. The House is voting on a new round of PPP funding today. In fact, they might be doing it right now, which I'm happy about, because for this business, the business of our software and consulting and funding business, we missed the cut on the first round. And when I heard that news, I almost fainted. I was like, because we really, really need the help. And so there's a new round of funding. And I guess they're going to try to lock out some of these big players. Josh, before we started here, we were talking a little bit about that.
Yeah. How the Ruth Chris's and the Shake Shacks of the world.
And Harvard, really, with $182 billion endowment? Give me a break. And here we are, the little businesses that are trying to keep 15 people employed. Hairdressers and restaurant owners and hotel owners, and I mean, we all got shut out. So Harvard could get $8 million or whatever I heard.
Right.
Good Lord. Well, anyway, I think they've addressed that, and so I do look forward to getting an E-Tran number today, I hope, or maybe tomorrow, Friday. Yeah. If you've applied for PPP and you don't have an E-Tran number, meaning electronic transmittal or whatever, that's a SBA term, you're not in the mix. You're not in the what you've asked for has not been allocated on your behalf without an E-Tran number. So get the E-Tran number, and if this means riding herd with your bank, if you've applied for PPP, start riding herd now. Like the minute we get off this call your banker and say, don't let it happen again, because there's millions of these applications just queued up on underwriters' desks that are going to go boom into this system the minute E-Tran opens back up. And I'll tell you what, ours better be one of them.
We were right on the top of the list when we got the call that they ran out of money. So hopefully.
Yeah, we were in the middle of a Zoom meeting when I got the call. Remember, Josh?
Yeah, I do.
I got the call. I came back to the Zoom meeting, and I was like, I can't be on this meeting right now. And I just hit the end button, and I just paced around. Just paced.
It was like one of those. It was one of those moments where Cam and I spent a lot of time together, and I can tell his mood and sort of what's happening. And he came back to the meeting. I was just like turned sideways, thinking. He muted it and went and took the call off screen, and then came back. The rest of the team and I were doing a meeting on something else. And I was like, well, we just got bad news. And it was bad news. The PPP program ran out of money.
Well, and right then, there was talk of it maybe being replenished, but right then it wasn't for sure.
Right.
The one thing that was for sure right then was that we missed it, and I was really, I got over it. I mean, I just, it's like all the, when you get punched in the face figuratively.
It hurts for a minute, and then you shake it off and you keep moving.
Yeah. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is not beer. This is an iced tea. For crying out loud, if you thought that. What's that saying? You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
I was going to make a 5 o'clock somewhere joke, but it's still a little early for
that. Okay. So there are a lot of, so here's a where to be a virtual investor suggestion. There are a lot of markets where construction has not been closed down or may have reopened. Wholesaling and rehabbing certainly are going to work there a lot better than they're going to work, say, in New York right now, because of basically the ban on construction. And it's talk about an example of the tail wagging the dog. I read the story. It was, I don't know, 8 guys in an elevator going to the top floor of some skyscraper being built in Manhattan, union guys. They decide to complain, and Cuomo says, now clearly we need to end construction statewide, including BFE, where, there's 3 guys in the house and they're nowhere near each other, but we're getting stuff done. Oh, no, that's, I tell you, New York is one of those examples where maybe it should be 2 different states, because that tail wags the dog. and it's
I
very
agree with
frustrating.
that.
So, but in other states where that is not the case, you've got, this is a window of opportunity, probably for the next, who knows, 3 to 6 months. You're going to hear me talk about this on the briefing tonight, where the competition has literally just gone poof, gone. We're going to talk about all about iBuyers tonight, about who they are, how they buy, how they're funded, and what they're doing right now and what they're not doing right now. And basically, they're out now. Does that mean they're out permanently? I doubt it. But they're out right now. So what you have is a very interesting window of opportunity where they, as one example of competition, and lots of other competitors that we had until the middle of March are just done.
Yep.
And so take advantage of that, because it's a big deal that and we're going to talk about this tonight too, the sort of shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And I've got a really interesting diagram to show you how real estate cycles work, and I think you'll appreciate that tonight. We're going to get technical.
Cam, I think you make a really good point when it comes to some states. Some markets are still operating pretty much status quo. I mean, things are a little different. I'll give the folks of you, some of you may be located in areas where the real estate market is shut down, like New York to some degree. But in South Carolina, things are still humming along. I mean, we're building a house right now, and they're pouring the concrete footers. There's workers out there every day working on the property. I've talked to the builder and at length, and he said the only slowdown he's seeing right now is that the cities are a little slower to do inspections because they're following a COVID-19 protocol where they want to make sure that there's no one else at the property when they go to do the inspection they need to do and leave. But he said it's like a day delay right now that they're seeing that kind of stuff. There's been no interruption in supply chain for the stuff that they need to build houses right now. So, they're keeping on top of it, but in general, they're doing their best. They're having to follow a little bit of different, like they can't have 3 teams in a house at once, but he's doing his best to organize around it. And the people who are there are just happy to be working still. So they're doing whatever it takes to get the jobs done. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to work around it too, where we have right now, we're finishing up the tile in bathrooms, and so the tile crew, what they've done is they've basically gone to 2 shifts. So there's one guy there from 7 to 3 or 3:30, and the other guy there from 3:30 to 11. So we're still getting 2 man days in. We're just stretching it over, and then the way we're also doing it is we'll have for example, the tile guys are finishing today, or they're not done, but they're done waiting on some materials that are running late. And then the other crew is going to go in, and they're going to work through the weekend. So,
nice.
They'll take their days off, next week in the middle of the week kind of thing. So we're trying to,
So how does it work with things that need more than one man? Are they just on a complete standstill because you can only have one person there at a time?
I'll tell you, I'm not so sure I want to put this in a recording, but if it's absolutely, 2 sets of hands, we cheat a little. Or the 2 shifts, the guys, they'll overlap by a half hour.
Yep.
And they'll do that stuff right then.
Yeah.
So if the guy comes, the constable, if he comes, one guy is arriving and the other's leaving, and there's, a little natural overlap between a shift change, and I'll be out of here in 5 minutes. It's all good. That kind of thing.
Good.
Yeah. So, virtual showings, right? So this is another question that came up, so this is becoming the norm now. In New York, they closed, and then they sort of halfway opened real estate again, where you can do virtual showings. And you know what? I have a realtor who contacted me yesterday, and she said that I'd rather work on FSBO deals right now and just get the seller to agree to my commission, because they're not in the MLS and they're not being tracked, and I can go in them, So, but virtual showings have become normal now and will remain that way. And not only that, but e-signature documents are now a thing, and virtual closings are now a thing, where We may be on a Zoom meeting that you record and it goes into the file where you see me signing the document, and then there's virtual notaries. And so what I'm getting at is we, as Americans and as humans, we're getting very creative in how we get stuff done under the, the heavy weight of this virus and the restrictions. And what that's doing is it's changing our world for good, right? America 2.0. That's another thing you're going to hear me talk about tonight. There's a lot of stuff changing right now, and this is one of them. And the nice thing about it is, for you now to be a virtual investor is not unusual. It's not, atypical. And I had this happen, and I know some of our clients have had this happen because I've heard the feedback where, you're in, wherever you are, you're in Ohio, and you're buying a house in Alabama, whatever, plucking from air.
Mm-hmm.
And the realtor says, well, I'm not even going to entertain your offer because you haven't even seen this house. I don't work with buyers who haven't physically inspected the house. And that's how I roll, from a realtor prior to March 15th. Well, that realtor's not going to say that again, ever.
No way.
So the concept of being a virtual investor is now normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the new normal. So, and look, if you've hung around me, I've been talking to you about being a virtual investor for more than 10 years for very good reasons, like diversification, be in multiple markets. And then here's another great reason. When you're in multiple markets, you learn about the customs and idiosyncrasies of more than one market, 2 markets, 3 markets, 4 markets. You become a much wiser, much deeper real estate investor. Your knowledge base is much deeper because you see how it works there and how it works there, and they're different. And the understanding how it works in more than one place just clearly makes you a much wiser investor. So
I also think that it gives you, by operating in more than one market, say you're in 4 markets and one of them tanks for some reason. Like, let's say in 07, 06, you were in Vegas and 3 other smaller markets. Well, Vegas tanks in 07, 08. You have insurance. You have other markets where you're doing properties, and your whole business doesn't come to, maybe one small piece of it or a piece of it comes to a grinding halt. The rest doesn't. So you're able to survive. So I kind of like it as a sort of business insurance by separating,
It is, and I'll tell you what it's akin to is the concept of multiple streams of income. If one dries up, you got others to keep you, afloat, right?
Yep.
And by the way, here's another thing. This is a prediction on my part that because of virtual and electronic closings becoming normal, I think we're going to start to see more and more timely data reporting by county. So there's 3,000, I looked this up, 3,143 counties, and that includes parishes and like the District of Columbia. So there's 3,143. And frankly, they all report differently in different intervals, and some do report bedrooms and some don't report bathrooms. I mean, it's just this, mess.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that this is going to sort of homogenize, if you will, the data, and maybe also get some of the counties that report slowly or less frequently to report more quickly and more frequently. I think there's a big upside in the background from this as well.
Yeah, there'll be pressure on them to improve the way that they report data.
Yeah, and you know what? The pressure is going to come from the consumer, from realtors, and so not from the aggregators. It's going to come from the user, and that's the best. That's what makes capitalism great, is the customer wins. And here you have the customer saying what they want and need and forcing change. I think it's solid. Okay, a couple last things, and we're going to dive into the questions here. I was thinking about some of the life lessons that I have learned and how maybe I can share those with you and they might benefit you in some way. And I thought of something the other day that I wanted to mention here. So some of you know that I'm a big car guy. I'm a Porsche Club racer. I've got an extraordinarily capable car, and I run in GTB1, if that means anything to you. That's a class. But I'm also an instructor for Porsche Club, BMW Club, and several other small clubs that are local to me near Watkins Glen. So I live 17 miles from Watkins Glen, the racetrack, and that's like the premier road course. Certainly one of, if not the most historic in the U.S. And so one of the things, so if you come to the track and I'm paired with you as your instructor, and we're going to spend 2 days together teaching you what is typically called HPDE, High Performance Driver's Ed. And I'm going to teach you to be a better driver on the road, and I'm going to teach you to be a great driver on the racetrack, and you'll understand the dynamics of car control, balance, speed, acceleration, braking, all of that. And one of the most important lessons that I need to get across to you is what I call in 2 words, eyes up, right? So we have a natural tendency as humans to sort of look down. And so when at what's right in front of our feet or right in front of the car, look down the hood at the pavement, 2 feet in front of or 3 feet in front of the grill. Dangerous. Not a good way to drive a car on the road. A really bad way to drive a car on the racetrack. You need your eyes up. You need to be processing what's going on up there. So if you're in a corner, you're not looking at the corner. Your eyes are down track a quarter mile, and you're coming out of the corner with your focus way out on the horizon, eyes up, eyes up. So my thought is to share that with you, because you might be, with all that's going on and how depressing it is and being shut in and, stuck, with the same people, and you're pushing you to the limits. I get it.
Yep.
Eyes up. Take your focus off the immediate, what's going on around you. Might mean turning off the news, and focus on the future. Get your head 30 or 60 days into the future, not today. Eyes up. So if you catch yourself doing that, use my 2 words, eyes up. Because if we're in the car together, I'm in the passenger seat, I can see you, I'm watching your eyes. And if I see your eyes down, I'm going to yell into the intercom. We're wearing an intercom because the windows are down and we're going faster than all get out. I'm going to yell, eyes up. And I see your eyes come up. And I only have to do that 2 or 3 times, and pretty soon you get it. So eyes up. A couple of quick things. You only have control over a few things in your life. Your attitude, the way you react to the world around you, what people say, what people do, things that happen. We have control over how we react to that. And we have control over what we do with our time. And that's going to segue us nicely into a great tool we have for you here today.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you to be aware of your attitude, think before you react, and ask yourself good questions like, how could I be spending my time that would be more productive and I'd be better off in the future? So I heard a thing the other day. I thought that was pretty cool. It was on the radio, and it was a lady saying, "Well, you're not commuting anymore, right?" And she said, "I had a 45-minute commute to work and then 45 minutes home, assuming you were working a job." She said, "That's an hour and a half that I just found in my day." So she said, I made a decision exactly what to do with that time, as opposed to just sort of randomly letting it slip between my fingers. I made a clear-headed decision on what to do with that time so that I'm better off as a result of having that time, sort of finding that time in my day. And for her, it was exercise. So it could be whatever for you, but just be thinking about it. What are you spending your time on? Is it serving you? Is it moving you toward your goal?
I think that a lot of folks right now, um, humans tend to look for excuses to relax and be lazy. And I'm not saying I'm holier than thou, by the way, to everyone watching this. I've done it too. I feel myself getting into traps where we've talked a lot about don't use this time to binge watch Netflix. That's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
What you need to be doing is, even if you're not perfect, ask yourself, would a successful person do this? And if you think a successful person, and it doesn't have to mean they're a millionaire or billionaire, but a successful person in life who's got a healthy mind, a healthy family, they're,
Healthy body.
thinking the right things, healthy body, that's a successful person, right? If you think that person is watching every single Harry Potter movie in a row on a Saturday, you're wrong. They're not. I don't know one successful person who's bragging about ripping through the Tiger King in 3 hours or whatever, however
By
long
the
that
way,
series is.
I was hoping you'd bring that up. I may be, and this, I'll tell you right now, I think this is a badge of honor. I may be the only human alive who hasn't seen that dumb show. I have not seen it, and I'm not going to watch it. I refuse to watch it. Everyone's like, "Oh, you have no idea what you're missing, man. This show is," and I'm like, "Good. I'm going to be the one holdout."
Yeah.
Or maybe you and I are the two holdouts.
Don't ever break. But that's, so when you find yourself binge watching something, that's what sick, like if I'm sick in bed and I can't move, I might binge watch Netflix, because the only thing my body can do at that moment is either sleep or look up at a TV. I'm not going to spend time that I could be reading, playing with my kids, spending quality time with my wife, working on the house, doing productive things, learning and doing things for my business. Don't spend any time that you could be doing that, binge watching Netflix or, binge eating, binge drinking, whatever it is. Instead, focus on doing things that make you feel better, because if you feel better, you're going to perform better. And if you perform better, your results are going to be better. And that's what you have to remember. There's no way you put junk into your life and get out gold. The only way to get good things out of your life is to put in good things, which means reading, good relationships, healthy conversations, healthy activities like sports and walking, that kind of stuff. That's what creates good stuff out of your life, not binge watching TV and eating pizzas.
So tell them about this thing you developed. I think it's cool.
Yeah. So, like I said, I am, I'm a human just like everybody else on this broadcast, and I slip up from time to time. And what I learned was that I'm a creature of habit, and I'm also visual. And so what I need to make sure that I stay on track at all times, and I've learned this a couple years ago, was I need the ability to score myself daily and to keep track of what I've considered to be good habits. So I sat down and I started deciding, what are the habits that I want to make sure I achieve every day. And they don't have to be these massive, huge goals, but they're just small little habits that I want to do every day. Like a simple one for a 6-year-old would be like, wake up at 8 a.m., brush your teeth, eat a healthy breakfast, read a book, play outside, brush your teeth, go to bed by 9, right? That would be a simple daily chart for a 9-year-old. And if they did that every day, would you not agree that they'd be a very healthy, productive child? Absolutely, right? I mean, they're doing these, and by the way, that's not all they're doing, but those are the main habits that they would commit to achieving every single day. And so what I did was I created what I call the habit tracker, and I've been using this for a while. I shared it with our team last February. I shared it with our mentorship family
at the mentorship retreat.
They love this thing, and a lot of people are using it. In fact, last week or a couple weeks ago, someone asked me to talk about this on one of our live broadcasts. But last week I got an email from one of our students, and he was telling me how powerful this has been for him, because even though it's something simple, it really has allowed him to see where he's falling apart on his daily habits. And that's why I like this. I'm a visual person. Let me share this with you guys, and I'll show it to you. And then I'll tell you how to download this for free here in a second, so that you can get a copy of this. You can use it for yourself, and you can start using the habit tracker to keep yourself in line. And by the way, right now, when things are so crazy and things change day to day, and you'll have like a terrible day and then a great day and then a blah day and then a great day. It's really important that you stick to healthy habits, because that's what's going to make you feel better. Following something like a habit tracker helps you reduce stress, because you go through a day and you say, okay, even though I got one bad piece of news today, I did all these other things. And I'm looking at my screen here and I'll share with you in a second. And you realize, okay, so that one piece of news about the PPP last week sucked. But on that day, I achieved like 10 out of 10 of my goals. So while that was a terrible piece of news, I did look at that and go, well, I lose the whole day, right? I feel good. It was a win. It wasn't an overall win, but it was a win. And wins make you feel better. And then tomorrow you show up and you're a winner, right? So it'll help you reduce stress, help you increase productivity, and it makes you feel better overall when you can look and see how you're doing. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen, because I didn't do that yet. Alrighty. Cam, just let me know if you can see this.
Yep.
All right, cool. So as you can see here, what I've done is I've set it up so that I've created my habits that I want to track here by week. And you can come in and change all these, by the way, to whatever you want them to be. Wake up at 6 a.m. People who wake up early tend to get more done. If for no other reason, then you've got more time in the day to get things done. Meditate. Spend 20 or 30 minutes doing whatever you consider meditation to be. It's important to have quiet time to yourself, to think about your day, to think about the things you want to work on, whether you read during that time, I don't care. But you need to spend some alone time with yourself. And hint, most of us aren't very good at spending alone time with ourselves. So practice it. Eat healthy. That can mean anything you want it to mean. And by the way, none of these have to be yours, but for me, that means, not drinking every day of the week. I don't drink unless it's like a weekend day or my wife makes a special meal and we have wine. Why? Because when you drink a lot, you feel like poop. I just censored myself, Cam.
Good for you.
And so that's what it means to me. Eat healthy, eating vegetables, not overeating, just, eating to fuel my body and feel good. Read at least one chapter of a book every day, call 50 sellers, less than 30 minutes of social media. That is huge for me because I'll go ahead and admit it. A lot of what we do, I'm the chief marketing officer of this company, but I've been a marketing mind since I was 10 years old. I've been into marketing and generating interest in things and teaching people how to find customers my whole life. And so when social media came around and I learned how to harness the power of it, I started using it. And before long, I was no longer just a content creator of social media, but I was also a user of social media, right? And what I found is that's a giant waste of my time. Scrolling on Facebook endlessly, giant waste of time. Creating an ad on Facebook that generates motivated seller leads, awesome use of time, right? So there's a difference between a person who's using social media as a release or a way to, it's the same as binge watching Netflix, scrolling on social media. So I try to limit my amount of social media time. I've completely removed Facebook from my phone. I completely remove Instagram from my phone just so that doesn't happen. Phone down by 9 p.m. There's no reason to be on my phone messing around, answering work emails at 11:30 at night. All that does is cause me to get bad.
Unless the email's from me.
Exactly. Yep. Well, I have a special ding. Work out for 45 minutes a day. Everyone should be doing something. Working out for 45 minutes a day doesn't mean I have to do like an Arnold Schwarzenegger hard workout, but you have to do something.
What we're doing a ton of is walking.
Yeah,
getting our steps in, man.
People in my neighborhood are walking like crazy, and I think that's one of the major upsides that we're going to see in general, just from our community. People are being healthier, at least with their exercise, that I'm seeing with my own eyes. I can't run anymore because I hurt my feet a couple years ago. Cam remembers that. I complained about it for about 2 years straight. And I finally got them fixed, and now I'm unwilling to hurt them again. So I ride a bike almost every single day, right? And you can see over here, ride a combined 75 miles is one of my monthly goals. And then plan out your tomorrow. That's one that you should have on here. If you change all the rest of these, you should definitely plan out your tomorrow. Because I firmly believe that if you're planning your day the morning of the day, you're behind. You need to plan it. Like I plan tomorrow, tonight, before I leave the office. The last thing I do is look at my schedule for tomorrow, think about what's coming up. Cam can verify this. Yesterday afternoon, we were really busy in our business. But like 5:30, I wrote Cam and said, "Are we still on for the strategy lab tomorrow?" Like that's because I was looking at my calendar. I was checking what I was doing, making sure everything was going to be set, because I want to know what's happening. Then, even though I'm not actively thinking about it, I'm subconsciously working on problems and things in my mind. And then when I show up tomorrow, I'm ready to work. I don't have to waste 2 hours trying to figure out my day. So you definitely want to plan your tomorrow. And the way this habit tracker works is you come up with the habits that you want to track. And then every day after the day, and sometimes I do this during the day. You can see here on Thursday, I've already checked a few things. I'll come in and I'll grade myself. It's pass or fail. Did I wake up by 6 a.m.? If I did, I color green. Did I meditate? Yes, color green. Did I put my phone down by 9 p.m.? I get a little slap on the hand because I didn't do that on Monday. And I have to be honest with myself, okay? And I have a red mark there. And so what you'll notice is as you start looking back and you start tracking, every day what you're doing, number one, if you're like me and you're addicted to completing things and you like that little putting a check mark next to the done item, putting the green dot here under wake up by 6, meditate, and read a chapter feels like I'm winning the day already. I've already started winning the day, right? And once I get my workout in, I'll do that and plan on my tomorrow. I go ahead and punch it in. And on days like this where I had 3 reds, I kind of on Tuesday, I let myself down. On Wednesday, when I look back, I was like, yeah, man, I was a little lazy there, And so what you're going to notice is as you get through the Sunday, you're going to see where you're strong and where you're weak. And right now, if I was to look back, my weakest area so far is putting my darn phone down by 9 p.m. because Cam keeps emailing me at 9:01.
Well, I think he has a ringtone when I send him an email. I think it's like this dog barking, that dog barking ringtone. I'm sure Angelina hears that and she's probably like, "Oh, for crying out loud, this guy, he is insufferable."
I the dog barking ringtone because my dogs would go insane.
Oh yeah, that'd be bad. All right, so tell them how they can get this.
Yeah. So how you can get this is by going to realestatewealthnetwork.com/habit tracker, realestatewealthnetwork.com/habit tracker. And you'll just type it in. It's going to pull up and show you this exact screen we're on. And if you want to save it for yourself, I made it so you can't edit this version because then you're going to be in my habit tracker. But what you can do is go to File up here and download, and you can download it as an Excel or any one of these other formats and use it for yourself. And if you don't want to keep this on your desktop, you could always open up your own Google Drive and put this on your own Google Drive as well.
What's cool about that is then it's on your phone and it's on your tablet, it's on your computer. Exactly right. If you're out of town and you have it with you.
And you can see my habit tracker here is on my phone. It's one touch because I've saved it to my desktop. So I like it on my phone, and usually I'm grading myself on my phone. I'm not pulling it up on the screen and doing it, while I'm working. But at the end of the day, at 8:55, before I put my phone down, that's usually when I'm going in there and scoring it up. And what I've done now is I'll go through and count how many available green spots I could have had, like how many available squares are there, and how many red did I get during the week, and then I give myself a percentage score. So if I score above an 80%, I feel like I'm doing average, but I want to be above 90% to feel like I'm being productive. Because you can't always be perfect. If you expect this thing to be fully green, you're a machine, right? Even if you did everything here perfect, you're going to miss something. You're going to sleep in one day past 6. You're going to do something. And by the way, a little bit of red means you're probably living a pretty healthy life. A lot of red means you're probably not. So hopefully this tool can help you guys. I use it just to keep myself accountable and on track and moving forward. And it's been a big help. So realestatewealthnetwork.com/habit tracker. And you can download it for yourself. We'll also put it on the blog, put a link below the video on the blog once we get that up.
And also Chelsea, I'm sure you're watching this. Would you put a link to it in the comments here on Facebook? And guys, we do appreciate your comments, and hit like and leave us a comment. Tell us who you are and where you're watching this from. And don't forget to send your questions and comments for us to address here, which we're going to launch into right now, to comments@realestatewealthnetwork.com. So, and if you're watching this on recording on the blog, leave a comment there as well, and tell us, what you're thinking. Also, next week, one way or another, and by me saying this, I'm holding myself and you too, Josh, accountable. We're going to have a closing agent join us next week on the Strategy Lab, and we're going to talk to him or her. I have the right closing company in mind. We just need to figure out who. So we can talk about how this is actually, how closings are working right now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it would be, I'm 99% sure it's going to be Christine from South Jersey Settlement. It's a
Nice.
Closing title company attorney in South Jersey that I don't know how many deals funding deals this is.
A bunch.
We've closed to them. I mean, we've probably closed more deals through them than any other one single closing agent, and they love us and we love them. And man, if you are doing deals in Jersey, are they good? Whoa. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna lasso her and get her to join us next week, sort of like we had Doug from Legacy Capital last week.
And obviously we have questions that we want to talk to her about in relation to the market. But if you guys have questions, you'd love to talk to a top performing closing or title attorney, put those questions right now in the comments below. Let us know what you want to know. She's from Jersey, but what she's doing relates to almost every market. Tons of great information.
Well, and think about it too. New Jersey, like New York and Connecticut, are among the most clamped down states in the union. And so you're going to be hearing from someone in that environment. So, most everywhere else is probably better or easier. So good thought. All right, we gotta keep moving here. We're gonna jump into your questions. I'll take one, and then we'll sort of bounce back and forth.
Sounds good.
The one that I actually am really looking forward to addressing here is it comes from Carla. Carla asked, she said, I have a question. If they pass the rental bill with properties, will it affect the real estate industry? So apparently, I actually clicked through and read the article about it. Ilhan Omar, a member of the House of Representatives, she is a Democrat from Minnesota. Ilhan Omar has sponsored a bill that basically says you don't have to pay your rent or your mortgage, and would completely upend and change the real estate industry from its deepest roots, rip it out of the ground, and then throw it down dead. And Carla is asking if this thing passes, won't it be a disaster? I'm paraphrasing. And my response is, it sure would be.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a member of the House of Representatives who I think probably has, amongst all those members, and there's 400, I think, in the House.
Something like that.
Something like that, right? 2 per state is 100. There's 5, so 430, I think it is, or around there.
Yeah.
She, in my opinion, is probably about the least effective member of the House of Representatives, with the least amount of pull, the least amount of credibility, and I think, frankly, the least amount of authority in that entire body. So do I think that'll pass? When a big pig flies by that window right there, maybe. But other than that, no, I would not.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, and I'm not saying that all proposals and all sponsored bills are this, but you got to remember the folks that she represents. There's a good chance that she is doing this to make them happy.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's going to become a law. That doesn't mean that this is actually going to come to fruition.
No.
And there are bills sponsored every day that are insanely crazy. And this is one of them.
Yeah, it'll never get traction. And you're absolutely right. She's just pandering to her base and, trying to put forth her ideology. Frankly, if you're in the House or the Senate and you don't introduce a bill every now and then, you're considered useless.
Yeah, exactly.
So, this is what, it's sort of like, a few months ago, we would have, you couldn't hire to save your life. Well, the job market the employment market certainly changed.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get people who would apply and come, and they'd make an appointment to come for an interview, and they'd blow us off because they were just checking the box. Because if you're on unemployment, you have to be making applications and applying for interviews and doing all this stuff. They had no intention of coming. They're just checking the box so that they can stay on unemployment. That's exactly what this is. All right. Moving on. Go ahead, Josh. You take one.
All right. I've got one here from, where is it? Janice. She says, I have not done any deals yet, and I'm brand new, so I'd like to know which of your programs should I start out with? And I thought that's a deep question because I don't know anything about you specifically. But Janice, what I would recommend you do is join Cam tonight. First thing you need to do is get information. You need to learn. So join Cam tonight for the briefing that he's doing. Pay attention. Take as many notes as you can. And then you want to find a system that's going to give you as many of the things that you need to be successful in today's market. So no matter where you go, you want to make sure that you're able to find motivated sellers because you need to find people who need to sell. Cash buyers, because you need to find people who are going to buy those things, and funding to do deals. Now, obviously, we provide that and have been providing those three things for a very long time. But I think join Cam tonight for the briefing, get more information so that you can make a smart decision on what the right program is for you, and then call our client support, and they can get to know you really well and figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are if you need to. I don't want to just pick one out of the air. But I would say that is your best bet. Join him tonight. Learn all you can about what's working right now in today's market. And we've never been it's been a long time. If you've been on our list, it's been a long time since we've been in a market where what's working now is very narrow. It's been narrowed a lot and it's very specific to now, right? So get on the briefing tonight. That's what Cam's going to be sharing. That's what he's been burning the midnight oil for the last 5 weeks or more. I think you'll get a lot out of it.
Good. All right. Marjay, I'm going to take two because this one's really quick. Marjay asked, are title companies still doing closings? Yes. I just had one right up there. I'm pointing because I'm sitting in a room with windows where I can point it just in that town right there. Just had a closing. Yeah, they're happening all the time. My attorney in New York that I work with, he just closed a private loan for us. And we went and did the docs in the parking lot. So yeah. And again, this whole virtual concept of doing it virtually without actually even doing a mail away, which has been around forever, is a thing now. All right. So that one was so quick. I'm going to do two. Let's see here. Larry, are cash buyers likely to still be active in smaller towns? Yes. So what I'm hearing from my investor network of people that I talk to and listen to on a daily basis is that sellers are much more receptive to cash offers right now than they have been in years. And in particular, wholesaling is working well. And I'm seeing it in my own business because I've always really focused on smaller towns anyway, but working extraordinarily well in smaller towns. So I'm not the only one that's saying that and experiencing that. So Larry, question number one, yes. Question number two, strategy for making money as a wholesaler with no liquidity to buy and hold. Wholesaling, you asked and answered. If you don't have the liquidity to buy and hold, well, I would argue that the liquidity is available to you. You just haven't, it hasn't revealed itself to you yet. And that would be in the form of private lenders. Could launch into a much longer conversation about that, but private lenders are the ticket when it comes to buying and holding, especially now that the mortgage market has really contracted. You basically can't get a non-owner occupied loan right now, and it may be a long time before you can from a bank. So private lenders are the ticket. But you said it. If you don't have the liquidity or don't believe you do to buy and hold, then let's wholesale some houses. It's easy, it's fast, And your buyer is going to be a rehabber or a landlord who does have the liquidity to do one or the other of those two things. And by the way, a lot of landlords buy from us as wholesalers because they're looking to buy at a bargain price and do some repairs, or what we call a rehab for rental, right? There's a couple types of rehabs. There's a rehab for retail sale to a buyer who's super picky and who's getting a mortgage. And so there's going to be an appraisal and an inspection and all that stuff. That's one type of rehab. And then there's a rehab for a rental. So either one of those types of buyers are who you're going to sell to. And I'll extrapolate another question that you didn't ask, but that I want to answer sort of in the flow of this is, are they buying? Are landlords and rehabbers buying? I would say to you, yes. I'm seeing evidence of that on a daily basis. We're funding deals every day. Mm-hmm. Did you see the one periodically, we don't post every one we fund, nowhere near, but just the other day, funded a deal. What was it, last Friday for Byron in Virginia, made $23,000. Yeah. Rehabbers and landlords are buying right now. Then the question is, and this is my problem. I always think of the other questions you didn't ask. Then the question is, how do we price this? So somebody else has asked that in here. How do we price? How do we put a value on a house and make an offer when everything's sort of in flux right now? Well, welcome to the new reality. That's your and my new reality. And so what you got to do is what we always do, is look at comps. But then Doug Faith, who was with us last week, who's a hard money lender at Legacy Capital, we asked him that exact question. How do you put a value on, as a lender, on a deal? And he said, well, we're going to look at comps, and then we're going to lower the value from what the comps would support by 10 to 15%. And you know what? That's a pretty good, I think, way to look at it, because the comps are a lagging indicator, right? They're not a leading indicator. They're not telling you what the future is. They're telling you what the past was. So that's a lagging indicator. But they're always recent.
Yep.
So, and they're, so because they're recent, they're moving. So if you take the most recent comps, that lagging indicator, and then you apply a sort of correction, if you will, to pricing. So to price in the fact that this market is like the earth moving under your feet, of say 15%, I think you're going to be okay, because your buyer is probably doing the same thing. And if not your buyer, their lender is doing that, as evidenced by Doug, who is the hard money lender we had on last week. Yep. So a lot of answers to your questions, and I hope that helps.
All right. I've got one here from Jose. He writes in and says, I have the motivated seller data feed. However, when I contact people, they say they do not want to sell. Help. Well, Jose, I'm going to do my best to guess at what you're doing and try to help you, because you didn't give me any more details. But what I'll say is this. The motivated seller data feed is a powerful tool that it allows you to stack 20 different motivations against each other and find likely motivated sellers. They are not deals waiting for you to sign every single one, 5.9 million or whatever we have in there at the exact moment, deals ready to be signed. So you're going to have to do some sifting, right? And I assume you're calling them, and in your calling, they're saying they don't want to sell. What we have to do is look at what you're doing. Are you using the script in the system? Have you added your own salt and pepper to it? When I teach marketing a lot, especially to folks who are getting started, I tell them, scripts are great, templates are great. Those things are awesome to get you off the ground. You want to make sure you put your own salt and pepper on them, because a little bit of your own flavor on the template takes it from just a standard template to a custom page. So same with scripts. If you're in the motivated seller data feed and you download the script for talking to private sellers, don't read it verbatim. I want you to tweak it for your own personality, for your area, for the time that we're in right now. Maybe when you're talking to these sellers, you want to lead with, you hope that them and their family are safe and healthy during this time. By the way, my name's Josh, and I'm an investor in the area, and I know that not a whole lot of us have been able to get out, but I was able to find your property by way of public record, and looked at it online. I'm wondering, would you be interested in a cash offer on your property once this whole thing's done? Okay, that's a simple little tweak to the script that I use a lot and get really good responses to. And again, we're just looking for, yes, I'd be interested in a cash offer. Are you using the word cash offer or are you saying, hey, this is Jose, do you want to sell? I don't know what you're doing, but I would assume that either A, you've not called enough people, right? And by the way, at our live events, we'll do when we used to do those live events, and we could get out of here, we would call. Cam and I would do a session at the end of one of the days where we log in the Motivated Seller data feed, pick a random town, and start calling folks. We'd in an hour, because we're teaching while we're doing it, we call 20-ish people, right, Cam? And or more. And in that hour, we'd get 2 to 3 people who'd say, yes, make me an offer. That means 17 of them said no or didn't answer or hung up on me, right? But I spend an hour, which probably would have taken me 20 minutes if I wasn't teaching in between, calling those people to get 3 yes, make me an offers. And so my point to you is continue to call, work on your script. If you're getting bad results, change it. It's not the answer you're looking for me to say is, oh, well, it just doesn't work. But that's not true. What's true is we have tons of clients and customers who are using all of our data feeds, the Motivated Seller data feeds particularly, and doing deals all the time. So it is working. It's just not for you right now. So let's look at what you're doing. When are you calling? How many people are you calling? And what are you saying to them? If you can look at those 2 things and start tweaking them, you'll be able to improve your results. And that's with anything in marketing. By the way, cold calling is just a marketing strategy. You want to look at what you're doing, look at the results you're getting, and then ask yourself, how can I tweak that to get better results? And go from there. But so hopefully, go ahead.
I was just going to drop a couple of quick little thoughts on that.
Yep.
One is that there are fewer people contacting sellers right now, far fewer. And so your odds are better. And it's a numbers game purely. And the way the Motivated Seller data feed was designed with motivation stacking was to put the most potentially motivated people in front of you first, so that you're spending your time and your energy and your resources on the most likely motivated sellers. But you're going to find sellers that are in a state of flux right now. They're confused. They don't know what to do, and a confused mind always says no. So, and by the way, that's a writer downer right there, because it's so true in so many aspects of our lives.
Yep.
A confused mind always says no. And so we have to try not to confuse that mind, but I think we can assume that when we reach that mind, there's a certain amount of confusion that's already present.
Right.
And what we want to be for that seller, if not a buyer right today, is a resource. Someone who they know they can reach back to later if they change their mind. And someone who they feel like cares about their situation. Now, we may know a lot more about their situation than we let on. One of my pro tips is, don't tell the seller about what their motivations, because they're not gonna like you when you do that. That's one of those familiarity things that you're not entitled to if you want to have a meaningful relationship with this seller that ends in you buying their house. So they're receiving far fewer contacts, and they're confused potentially. Let's go into it with that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So some random questions here that came secondhand, and I'm not really sure who they're from, but they're all sort of down the road on cash buyers. So basically the question is, who are they and where are they and what are their, oh, I see. Okay. I got you. This is coming from Clinton. Clinton, I presume you're watching, member of our team. Who are they? Where are they? And, he's being asked that a lot. So who are they? Who are cash buyers right now? they're the ones that have liquidity and are looking for bargains. And believe me, the bargains are just starting to roll out. There is a lag. I was having a conversation last night with somebody about this, that, you know, the stock market went first, and the economy now is following with the job losses and all of the stuff, and lending is contracting. I don't know if we will see a failure in the lending world, but we're seeing an awful lot of changes that are making lending less liquid and less active and less available. And then prices, real estate, that comes last. And a lot of it has to do with, the lack of liquidity. Okay. So the stock market is very liquid. You can sell a stock like that, just push a button and it's sold. And what comes with that liquidity is extraordinary volatility. The stock market goes because it's so liquid. Well, real estate is illiquid. It takes time to sell a house. There's a process. It takes at least a few months if you consider a typical transaction. And so that sort of takes the volatility out of the real estate market. So, I would say that real estate is sort of a lagging asset class, if you will. It lags the stock market and it lags the economy. It reacts more slowly, but it reacts. And so the cash buyers out there are looking for bargains. I would suggest that they're probably doing what we just talked about. They're looking at the comps and they're saying, well, I'm going to lower that by 10, 15%. And then they're either looking to rehab it and put a tenant in it or sell it. Now, right now, it's going to be a little difficult to sell to a retail end user because most lenders have raised their FICO requirements. They've raised their down payment requirements. They've got day of closing verifications of employment. If you've lost your job any time between the beginning and of the process and closing, they're going to find that out and they're going to walk away from the deal. So selling to a retail end user is going to be tricky right now. So I think what we're going to see is a huge shift in our cash buyers as to what their exit strategy is. I think fewer of them are going to rehab for retail because funding, the issues I just stated, and more of them are going to rehab for rental, or they may, I'm seeing them shift. And as someone who buys and holds, you're going to see me shift as a rehabber. I'm sorry, not as someone who buys and holds, but as a rehabber. I'm shifting my thinking now to selling, not to a retail buyer, but to someone with damaged credit, and doing that on a lease option or some sort of seller financing, which, we're going to talk lots more about, as this all unfolds in front of us here. But that's, I think, who your cash buyer is. They're still out there. They're looking for bargains, but their exit strategy or strategies are shifting as a result of the marketplace. Okay. Where are we going to find them? That's on the list of questions. In the cash buyer data feed. Those are verified cash buyers, and we're verifying that through the public record. And then we're applying algorithms and we're making sure we filter out the stuff that would waste your time. Pardon me. And they're in there. And here's what's interesting too. With the cash buyer data feed, we changed this about, I think a year ago or a little longer ago. What's in there now are people who paid cash for a property as an investor, didn't move into it, like someone, selling their house in New Jersey and moving to Florida, paying cash for it and moving in. That's not who you want. So people who paid cash for properties for over the last 12 months, we changed that. It used to be a shorter period of time. And I discovered, I realized just by being out there and doing the business every day that no, I want to look back further in time, because it was so difficult to find bargains prior to March 15th, which is kind of like the D-Day in my mind, that there's a lot of cash buyers whose frequency kind of came down. And so I don't, just because if you're a cash buyer, just because you haven't bought a house in the last 90 or 120 or 180 days doesn't mean you're not hunting and hungry right now. So now the data set goes back 12 months, and that will be important to you and me now, because there are a lot of people who are sitting on cash, who are looking to buy houses, who haven't in quite a while, but who are ready to pounce right now. And those are who are in the cash buyer data feed.
Yep.
When are they looking to close? Well, I don't think that's changed. As soon as possible, so they can get on with their exit. How would you engage with them? Would you place an addendum? So a couple of strategy labs ago, we talked about a COVID-19 addendum, and I got an example of one, and we made that available. It's on the blog. If you go back, I forget, was that the second or third strategy lab?
Yep.
You'll see it's downloadable. And I'm not saying go use it, because I'm not an attorney. I'm saying here's an example of some language you might want to put into an addendum addressing COVID-19 that helps you as the buyer. Should we offer that addendum to our buyer when we're selling? I wouldn't. Look, one of the things that you'll learn, if you don't already know, is we don't buy like we sell. It's a double standard. And we don't sell like we buy. So what I am going to look for from a buyer today is more of a commitment. In exchange for a clear and irrefutable bargain, I want to see an earnest money deposit that means you, Mr. Buyer, are serious. There's my, I might. So the question is there anything different we would do in dealing with them? I might hold out for a larger earnest money deposit. That's something.
Yeah. And you're the seller. I mean, you're not the seller, but you're in control of that. And if you've got an addendum with your seller already, you can decide to give the buyer more time if more time needs to happen before they can perform.
Right.
I mean,
good point. So, for example, if you have the addendum with your seller that gives you more time, which is effectively what this COVID-19 addendum does, is it says, hey, we're going to do our best to close by the closing date, but if we miss it, it's not because we're incompetent or we're reneging on the deal. It's because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, little flexibility here, please. So if we have that with the seller, and now our buyer gets a little delayed, and we know they're not playing a game because we got a good earnest money deposit from them, and their ability to close gets a little delayed. Well, we have the flexibility here with our seller to extend to our buyer. Yeah. Good point, Josh.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on. Go ahead, Josh. You're up.
I got one more question here, and then I think we'll have time for one more on your side before we need to wrap it up.
Okay.
Question here from Paul. He said, what should we be doing now, and what adjustments should we make in order to bring in as much cash as possible and as quickly as possible on a consistent basis for the near future? Very specific question. So I think we've talked a lot about the adjustments you're going to have to make over the last few strategy labs. So Paul, if you haven't been on all of them, I'd go start ripping through. These are nothing but content, and they're driven by your, the questions from our community. But what should you be doing? In my opinion, wholesaling. I mean, that's always been and will always be the fastest, least risky way to make money in real estate. With our tools and the way that we've designed things so you can do stuff virtually, you got everything at your fingertips. You just need to get going on it. And so that's what I would be focusing on. I'd be focusing on wholesaling. I'd get in the motivated seller data feed and start contacting sellers, sending out direct mail. By the way, less pieces of direct mail are going out right now too, guys. So not only are motivated sellers more receptive to phone calls and cash offers via phone, people are paying more attention to mail because less people are sending out mailings right now. So as a marketer, if you're active right now, you're actually getting a huge discount on the cost of that marketing, but B, more responses to that marketing as well. So now's the time to be active, not hiding in a cave.
Well said. All right. One last one here. This is from Ken. It says, hey Cam, thanks for holding these informative webinars. You're welcome. I don't know if this is a webinar, but whatever. I appreciate your thanks. Thanks for the thanks. It says, I'm a real estate agent on Long Island, And the regular market has slowed down tremendously, almost to a standstill. I believe that, especially considering the extent to which your market is being affected by this pandemic. You're right in the heart of it, which is, I wish you the very best, and I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy. So I'm not surprised to hear that where you are in particular, it's really slowed to a standstill. That is not the case everywhere else. So he goes on to say, I also work with investors looking for deals. Most are apprehensive because they think the prices will decline, and some others are having a hard time getting funding. We certainly have talked lots about this because of the uncertainty in the market. Well, that is normal. Okay. So I know you might say, how could this situation, as abnormal as it is, be normal? It is, considering where we are. All right. So I was talking to somebody, and you'll hear me talk about it again tonight. This is my fifth disaster that I've been a real estate investor for. Fifth. There was the recession of the early 90s. And frankly, that's when I got in the business, which is why you'll hear me say that if I had to start all over, I would do it. Now would be the perfect time, right now. There was the dot-com crash recession, 9/11, 2008, and now. So when I say that, investors, buyers are apprehensive, and funding is hard to get, and there is uncertainty in the market. When I say that's normal, I mean it. It is for where we are right now. Now, that doesn't make it go away, and that doesn't make it less troublesome, but it is normal, and it will pass. What's going to happen here, here's my metaphor is, think of a turtle, right? When it gets scared, it snaps into its shell and it becomes like a rock on the ground, right? Legs, head, into the shell. If you have ever, as a kid, I was fascinated by turtles. And if you watch and it's quiet and they're not, and they peek their head out just a little and they look around, and then their feet start to come out a little, and then their back feet slowly, and then they're up and walking around. And so we're in that place right now. We're snapped. We snapped into our shells, and I think we're starting to come out and look around. It's still kind of scary, and this is transitioning. And if you think about it, we've been doing these strategy labs for 5 weeks, and it's kind of, for me, it's interesting because I can say, well, that's when we started doing this, and here we are, and so I can measure that span of time easily within the frame of my mind. And I ask myself, look at what has happened in those 5 weeks, how much change, and how many, they used to say the news cycle is 24 hours. I think it's about 24 minutes right now. So my point is, things are changing very quickly, and we're the turtles coming out of our shells. I know it's frustrating, but relax, because this too will change. And I think you're experiencing this in a deeper, you're being more impacted by this, in part because of where you're located. And so folks are going to come out of their shells a little more slowly where you are. There's going to be a little more fear of a resurgence, or, there's some people that may not come out of their shells for a year. My mother-in-law is 89 years old. And she hasn't stepped foot out of her house in 6 weeks or longer. And no one has entered her house. Her grandniece, my niece, goes and buys her groceries and leaves them on her porch, and wipes them all down with Clorox wipes before she walks away. And honest to gosh, I don't think my mother-in-law is going to come out of her house. I bet you not till the fall. Even if New York opens up, and it's supposed to on May 15th, and they're looking at doing it regionally, which I think is nice. Maybe the dog wagging the tail for once. I don't think she's going to come out till the fall. Maybe long. And it's everybody's interpretation of it. Their perception of risk, how vulnerable they feel they are based on the stats, their age, their underlying illnesses, compromised immune systems, things like that.
Right.
And hypertension in New York, hypertension is the largest comorbidity across all the age groups is hypertension, which is high blood pressure. My mother-in-law has sky high blood pressure. So she's going to be 90 and has high blood pressure. So my point is, everybody's interpreting this a little different. We're all turtles. We're all coming out of our shells a little, we're peeking now. And it's gonna soon we will have a more productive normal, but what is about to be a productive normal will not seem anything like what used to be. You will not believe how much stuff is going to change. And when we come back to the new normal, how much stuff is never going to go back. And that's where all the opportunity lies. That's where the opportunity is. And that's what makes this so important. This time, right now, I feel blessed because I'm able to recognize for myself and for you that right now is the time to take action, to pivot.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine you're headed down the road, you got your eyes up, and there's an exit right here. Everybody's going straight. Very few people are taking the exit because very few people realize that exit is where the pot of gold is. And you're driving along, you got your eyes up, you see the exit, you're thinking, everybody's going, I'm not taking. And then all of a sudden, someone like me comes along and says, time to pivot. And you say, I'm taking it. And you get off the exit, and you're one of the few who do. And you start changing what you're doing. You start changing what you're thinking about. You start changing what you're focused on. And you open your eyes to the opportunities that are going to present themselves to you because you chose to be open to those opportunities. That's important. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is my 5th disaster. And after every disaster, I've made a fortune. And after every one, I've made a bigger fortune than the one before because of what I learned. This one is no exception. So come along for the ride. Join me tonight, and we're going to do our 2020 pandemic recession briefing. This is an extremely important briefing. I've been working on it for weeks. As Josh mentioned, I've been up till 3 a.m. getting this presentation ready, and it's tonight at 8 o'clock. You're going to get an email later today. We don't have the link ready for you to register, but you're going to get an email here and probably within the next couple hours. And so click on the link, register, and join me. I think you'll be glad you did. I'm going to take a deep dive, and not from a place of speculation or I don't know, crafted expectations. No, what I'm going to do is we're going to take a deep dive, and it's going to be from experience. 5th disaster. Josh, thanks a million for being here with me, my friend. It's always a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us for Real Estate Wealth Network Strategy Lab number 5. Next week, I'm going to have to do that with 2 hands. It'll be 6.
Yep.
And we're going to have a closing agent on with us to help to give us some sense for how that process is looking from her perspective. And thanks for taking time away from whatever else you might have been doing. This is kind of the stuff that is going to move you ahead. Now's the time to pivot. And you can grab that habit tracker. I'm sure Chelsea put the link in the comments. So if you scroll through the comments, it should be there. Please leave us a comment. We thrive on that. That's the gas in this motor, and we need that. And share it. And then you'll find this on the blog. It stays on our Facebook page at Real Estate Wealth Network, but you'll also find it on the blog, and there'll be a download link there for the habit tracker as well. Really, really great tool. Thanks for sharing that, Josh. I know that's going to have a big impact on a lot of people. And
I want to ask folks, once you download the habit tracker, give us your comments. What do you think of it? How is it helping you? Have you come up with any innovations for it that have made it more powerful? Because I'd love, again, we're in this together. This isn't a one-way conversation. It's why we do these live. We want them to be two-way. So tell us what you think. Ask what questions do you want us to answer next time. Send a comments at realestatewealthnetwork.com. There is no such thing as a stupid question. We won't embarrass you if the question is asked wrong, but if you don't ask it, you can get the answers. So send us your questions, and let's keep working on this together.
All right. Thanks, man. Thank you guys
You
for
bet.
joining us. We'll see you next week on the next Real Estate Wealth Network Strategy Lab. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.